Hello and welcome to A Bechdel Dysfunction, a podcast that dissects feminist films directed by men and discusses whether they are helpful or harmful. I am Cara Strover.
And I am Harry Anderson. We are two film school underachievers who are heaps good at talking about movies, but not that flash at making them. We want to acknowledge that we're recording this on Wurundjeri land. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land and pay our respect to elders past, present, and emerging. We also extend that to any other First Nations people who may be listening today.
This week we are talking about 1996's comedy The First Wives Club, directed by Hugh Wilson and starring comedy icons Bette Midler, Goldie Hawn, and Diane Keaton. Don't get mad, get everything.
Go Dodgers! That'll make more sense later on. The First Wives Club from 1996, directed by Hugh Wilson, written by Olivia Goldsmith and Robert Harling, starring Diane Keaton, Goldie Hawn, and Bette Midler. Reunited after the death of a college friend, three divorced women seek revenge on their husbands who have left them for younger women. Cara, welcome.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us again for the 16th time in a row. We should make you a regular fixture on this podcast.
I think I should be getting paid for my appearances now, as you are.
Oh yeah, well, there's a lot of money coming into this podcast, as you well know.
Salaried.
Yeah, big cash.
Mm.
First Wives Club. Had you seen it before?
Yeah, many times.
Tell me about your experience with this film.
I've actually watched it a lot recently because it's in my sick day rotation. Whenever I have, when you're properly sick and, so I had a pretty bad sort of virus this year and COVID. And when I had COVID last year, it ends up in my kind of rom-com, but also childhood nostalgia kind of playlist of movies. So I think this is the fourth time in 2 years that I've watched it.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So I was a bit do I need to go back to it again? And yeah, I think I kind of remember it being on TV a bit. Was it
a Channel 10 Friday
Channel
night
10
operator?
Yeah. So I think my earliest watching of it was on TV when you would finish whatever movie you'd rented and there was something still playing.
Oh, them's are the days. This is my first time viewing it. I just guessed that it was on Channel 10 on Friday nights. It just gives that vibe. Yes, first time watching it. And this one is for the boomer mums. Big boomer mum energy in this film. And with that stacked cast, who could argue? How did this most recent viewing experience, stack up from your nostalgia?
It's still good. I think the strong parts still hold up. The performances still hold up.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the one-liners still hold up. It's got three of the strongest comedic actresses of that generation and probably sort of still going. So I gotta say, the fourth viewing in such a sort of compressed amount of time, it was a bit tired, and I was I wasn't really pausing it when I needed to go and pour another drink or anything. I kind of knew. So the parts that I've always liked, I still like. There's a couple of scenes of hijinks and stuff that are they just get a bit tired when you watch it compressed like that. I think it's a good one.
Are you specifically mentioning the window cleaning machine?
Yeah.
Cool.
We need to sneak into the apartment and they've come back early. Yeah, all that kind of shit. The bits that fall flat are a bit dated. Do get pretty tiring. But so I think if you watch it nice and spaced out, or you watch it with your mom or something, or with some, your girlfriends while you've been drinking or whatever, it's probably funner than, for your fourth time and the last 3 times you watched it, you had a fever.
Yeah, for sure. This is 100% what my mum would call an ironing movie, real Sunday night operator, which doesn't sound all that empowering now that I say it out loud. Why is this a feminist film, in your opinion?
So if we talk a little bit about the plot, like you said, sort of 3 divorced women who come back together as a group after the death by suicide of one of their old friends. And it's kind of just all about this, and I'll kind of get to this later, but like the very sort of middle class white struggles of middle-aged women and what sort of turning a certain age can do to your career and your relationships. And I think it's kind of a good follow-up of some of the other movies we talked about, like Stepford Wives and like 9 to 5, which
Absolutely.
is, you know, those are sort of the issues of like younger women coming into like, and what can they can expect. And then this is like the part where you get dumped. So I think from that perspective is probably where its main sort of feminist ideas come from. It's like, how do you cope with being like, what does society project and expect from middle-aged women? And it's not very good. And it still isn't. It's kind of getting worse, actually, in some respects.
Do you like this movie?
Yeah.
Cool. That'll be the end of the podcast. Thanks for listening, everyone.
No, like, I mean, I sort of, you know, I think like there's a lot of, because it's from the 90s and there's a lot of like very outdated and a lot of, and jokes that haven't aged well.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have any like hostility towards it. It's just like, that was a bit gross. I'm happy to accept it and move on though.
Yeah.
And like I said, like I go back to it as like, it's like a comfort movie for me. Like it's something very easily digestible that makes me laugh a little bit. And I like sort of being, you know, in some of the scenes and some of it I don't like their behavior, but you know, when they're having a good time together, I like being in the company of these three characters and these really great actresses. So I like this movie.
I'm going to ask you to summarize the plot in a minute.
Oh, God.
I would think, I just want to say that, like, I'm in two minds as to how I want to talk about this movie, because part of me is like, yeah, I want to like treat it as like, yeah, this is like a lighthearted comedy about something that's very serious. And for a group of people who are not always like represented in mainstream media and given like this platform to be empowered, you know, sort of middle-aged women. And this like very specific issue, which obviously affects people we know, someone you know, someone in your life will have this experience, if not yourself. So part of me wants to be like, yeah, this is like a fun comedy movie to enjoy. And there's another part of me, the horrible wanker asshole part, that really wants to just analyze the shit out of this and critique it and really point out quite a few issues that I have with it. This is the kind of shit that alienates me at parties. But yeah, I'm going to think about how I'm going to approach this film while you summarize the plot. Go.
I think that's fine though. Like that's what we do all the time. I don't know.
I know. I'm not sure how harsh I want to be. So I'm going to.
Well, you can be harsh because I think I can sort of counterbalance some of your criticisms with a few whataboutisms if you want.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I can go through the plot. Actually, we open with, and I do hate this, and this is in another movie that I really like from the 90s, A League of Their Own, where they have this flash forward, and in this movie it's a flashback, but they do this thing where they cast actresses that really look like the characters in a different time period, and then they overdub their voice with the main cast, and it's like,
yeah, I thought that was happening as well.
Oh
yeah.
God, I hate it so much because you just know like that like, Diane Keaton's voice is so Diane Keaton, and that girl is not Diane Keaton. Anyway. So we open with a flashback in the 60s of like four best friends in college, and they're full of their hopes and dreams and aspirations and, you know, whatever they're going to do next, and they're going to stay friends forever. And then, of course, they drift apart. And the actual opening is Stockhart Channing, who was the fourth of their group, who commits suicide after her husband leaves her for a much younger woman, which kind of sets off the plot because it's them getting together after her funeral and realizing that they're all going through the same thing of their husbands leaving them for younger women, prompts them to start what they call the First Wives Club, and they're going to take their revenge, which is basically just kind of like digging up dirt. It's pretty
very 9 to 5-y. They're going to get them.
Yeah, it's pretty nebulous. Like I always kind of forget like what sort of their plan really is. Like there's a sequence where they're trying to, so Bette Midler's husband is a bit shifty, which apparently she didn't know about it, even though it's her uncle who's who's like from The Godfather. And so they're trying to get his tax returns. Yeah, I kind of can't remember like the sequence of events in which things happen.
Yeah, it's almost like it doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter. Anyway, but so they kind of come up with these little like schemes of like how are they going to get back at their husbands, mostly relating to money. And then after they have like they have a fight. This group sort of seems to be falling apart. And after they come together, when they mend their friendship, they sort of decide when we shouldn't just be taking revenge and just punishing. We're going to try and infuse a bit of altruism or karmic justice into this. And they end up... So the idea in the end is being that they're going to force their husbands to fund their... what would you call it? What do they call it? Like
Women's Refuge Centre, I believe they call it.
A crisis centre which provides... for women experiencing domestic violence and also just troubled family situations, which is good, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I do like that is the end goal, but I feel like they get to the Women's Health Centre in a very haphazard and tacked on way.
Yeah.
To the point where they're being interviewed at the front of it at its grand opening, and the reporter's like, "And is it true that your husband's left you for younger women?" And they're like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Cool, back to the studio." I'm like, wow, it's almost there. That's what I'm saying. And I think it would have been more empowering if they somehow put it together themselves rather than blackmailing their husbands into giving them money to do it. Simply because, as I've said in previous films where revenge has been sort of the main through line, I, as a viewer of these films, believe that the characters must rise above the initial revenge impulse to be better than those who have wronged them, because otherwise it's kind of just an eye for an eye. They're living a real world issue, which a lot of women live, and I'm sure it would have been very cathartic to watch this film and, imagine yourself being in the shoes of Diane Keaton and Goldie Hawn and Bette Midler being like, yeah, I'm going to get this motherfucker, I'm going to get his money back, and I'm going to live my perfect life. But it kind of just, in my eyes, it kind of narrows them down to the same level as these guys by the end of it. And they kind of try to lampshade at the end in the final meeting when it's like, this isn't revenge, we're doing something, but it is revenge. Like, it's still very much revenge. Just because you're saying it's not revenge means that it is. And I think it would have been empowering if they'd sort of like done it by their own means. Like, it would have worked out, I think, better as a script if sort of about halfway through the film they reach some sort of climax of revenge where they're just like, oh yeah, we've fucking got these guys cornered, but we've just done exactly the same thing to them as they've done to us. So I don't know. I think it would have benefited from them raising the money through their own means to make this. Does that make sense, or am I just fucking rambling?
No. Like, I get what you're saying. I just don't really. I sort of disagree. Like, I feel like I kind of agree with what you're saying. Like, in a like.
Because otherwise, it's just people taking stuff off other people, and then at the end they decide, also, this is a refuge now.
Yeah,
like, it seems really tacked on.
It is tacked on, but I just think that it's like you said, for like the catharsis. It's like, as the viewer, you also want, if you're aligned with like the First Wives Club, then you want the ex-husbands to be punished in some way. Like, I don't know. To me, it's kind of. I think it is pretty integral. I like the shift of like, we're not going to just punish you, because that would like, it's not just they don't want it to just be about their gratification. They want their gratification, and they want to also infuse a little bit of good as well. So it's not something that I have a problem with. It probably would be better with a script rewrite, like what you're saying, of like, maybe they've achieved their revenge and feel the hollowness of that and be like, okay, well, how are we going to move forward? And I don't care that their husbands pay for it. That doesn't bother me.
For sure. I also think at the end, like, I can completely understand why you say that, and obviously it's cathartic to watch. But I also feel like there's a few little loose ends that are tied up incredibly poorly with some of the husbands. Like, in particular, Morty, who's played by that guy from the Addams Family, who is Bette Midler's husband, who at the beginning of the film has left her for Sarah Jessica Parker. And then at the end of the film, despite having no growth whatsoever, decides that, he just wants Bette Midler back. And she is just like, oh, okay, yep, I'll have you back. Like, I felt that to be very cheap and kind of undermined whatever growth that she had had. At the same time, Sarah Jessica Parker ends up getting with Goldie Hawn's ex-husband as some sort of, it's like this weird reward for what he's been through. I'm like, why the fuck is this guy getting rewarded? Like, that sucks, man. That's so bad. That's such bad writing.
Yeah, that's just that feels just like a very classic, like, rom-com thing of just everyone has to be with someone at the end. Because apparently also, I mean, and this was cut from the final film, so it doesn't count, but apparently Jon Stewart had a role as Goldie Hawn's new boyfriend at the end, and his scene got cut. That's just a kind of a classic rom-com-y thing. I get what you're saying. Like, they don't change at all, but I don't think really any of them. Oh, no, that's not true. They do change. I think Brenda changes the least, who's Bette Midler. And I feel like
her character arc is real suspect, but go on.
I think there is kind of the seeds are somewhat planted, you know, at the start when they're all sort of talking about, you know, wanting to hurt their partners and stuff. She does have that nice moment where she's like, I still, you know, I don't want to hurt him. I love him. And then that turns into her be like, no, I actually want to maim him. But I think, I don't know. Again, it's not something that that's super bothers me.
That's why I was in two minds. Like, how serious do I want to take this film? And I'm deciding to take it as seriously as the lead actors do in the super melodramatic argument scenes that they have. But yeah, that's fine as well. Yeah, I think one issue that I had with it was that Bette Midler's character, her growth, a supposed character growth, is paralleled with Goldie Hawn's character growth, as Goldie Hawn's character is an alcoholic and must overcome her alcoholism to better her life. Fair enough. Alcoholism is a fucking very serious issue, affects a lot of people, but Bette Midler's issue is treated with the same severity, and it's heavily involved around body shaming and saying that, oh, she's got to be skinny to have her character arc, and that's just like a huge thing that comes through at the end. And having watched this for the first time with incredible male privilege, I cannot deny that, seeing those two parallel together and being considered by a 90s audience, a 90s like creative team to be the same thing, I found to be pretty sickening. And then it's like her whole character arc is like, hey, don't be fat and you'll win your husband back who you apparently hated. And I'm just like, I just don't buy that. Is that a fair assessment? Like, is that shit that those two things are paired together? Like, it's a huge point. They even argue about it. It's just like, hey, you got to stop drinking. Hey, you got to stop snacking. I'm like, sorry, but she's actually a pretty healthy body size. Yeah. Like, it can't possibly be compared.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right.
Yeah.
This is me looking at it as an enjoyer.
Yeah.
I think the thing for me also is that, like you said, Bette Midler is a pretty healthy body size. Like, Bette Midler is not, you know, fat in the way that she's kind of being treated in the movie. So, and for me as a viewer, I think I kind of interpret it more along the lines of just becoming sort of more self-assured. Mm-hmm. There's a lot, you could attribute that to a lot of things. Like, she's obviously at a really tumultuous time in her life. She's feeling insecure about her husband leaving her, and also about, you know, even just the idea of when her son leaves her that she's going to be alone. She doesn't have very strong social connections at that point. So then, you know, when she gets her friends back and kind of builds this relationship, and yeah, there's a whole thing about how I've lost a little bit of weight, I fit back into this outfit.
That happens off screen.
But that's also, I mean, I think what I'm sort of trying to get at is I find it very relatable. Like, as as a bit of a not a skinny gal myself, I did find a lot of common ground with like how Brenda interacts with, you know, her own her own self-esteem issues, and also projecting it onto kind of people around her. There's problematic aspects, and to be honest, I kind of never had really associated and this is coming from someone who watched it as a kid, wouldn't have really picked up on drawing those lines together. So I never really kind of associated Elise's drinking problem as being connected to or on the same level as Brenda's weight problem. And I'm saying that with air quotes. But
witnessed.
I just think for me, there's always a little bit of there's a bit of a cathartic enjoyment of just like, yes, Brenda, I get it. You're a bit of a bigger girl in a world that hates fat people and you're lashing out and I understand and I'm on your side. Like, I don't know. That's kind of all I can say about it.
I don't doubt those moments. I think that stuff is strong and that's perfectly fine and humane. I completely agree with you then. And like if you or other people have a cathartic experience seeing that, I think that's awesome. But I just think it's a bit dumb to have it compared as a character arc. That's all.
Yeah, totally.
Among other things, I'll direct my rage at the people who made this. Shall we talk about them?
Yeah, because apparently I'm a fan and I didn't even...
Yeah. Big Huey Wilson. Big Hugo the Boss Wilson, who directed this, got his start in TV via advertising, wrote and directed Police Academy in 1984, which was his first feature. Other films that he has made include Rustler's Rhapsody from 1985, Burglar from 1987, Guarding Tess from 1994, starring the one and only Nicolas Cage. We've got a double up of Brendan Fraser from 1999.
Shirley
with
MacLaine
Blast.
and Nicolas Cage. Sorry. That's so
Cut me
funny.
off. I'm
That
waxing
is so
poetic
funny.
here. A Brendan Fraser double feature in 1999 with Blast from the Past and one of your favourites, Dudley Do-Right. And his final film was called Mickey in 2004. He died in 2018, age 74, from lung cancer because he loved to smash darts. Hugh Wilson, you're a big fan. You didn't realise this.
Well, I looked at his Wikipedia page and I didn't even pick up that he directed Dudley Do-Right, which I do. Oh, I haven't watched Dudley Do-Right in so long, but I have such...
You're a big fan of this guy. You've seen a lot of his movies.
No, I haven't. I've seen
Yes, you have.
3.
Well, could you describe the directing style of Hugh Wilson from the 3 films that you've seen?
Broad?
Is he a generically saturated midday matinee specialist?
Yes.
In the same vein as
That's how I watched
Donald Petrie.
That's how I watched Blast from the Past.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was 2 years ago. It was on TV at 1:00, and I saw the start of it, and I thought, I'll keep watching this.
Will it surprise you to know that Hugh Wilson's Wikipedia is tremendously thin in terms of his feminist beliefs? Is that believable information that I'm bestowing upon you?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, that is in fact true. So it's hard to tell where his head is at. Do you reckon he's a feminist? What's your gut feel? Just vibe it.
I think he probably thinks women are fine.
Yeah.
I don't think
It's hard to pin down.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't think it's something that he is really particularly concerned with.
He loved women and he loves cigarettes. I think it's time to move on from Hugh Wilson. Shall we talk a little bit about...
Hold on. How do you know that I like Dudley Do-Right, by the way? Do I talk about Dudley Do-Right?
I just know that you like Brendan Fraser.
Okay.
And I guessed that you would have been into Dudley Do-Right.
Can I tell you my weird sort of bit of trivia that I enjoy from that? So Dudley Do-Right, Eric Idle is in it.
Hugh Wilson joint?
Yeah. And it's based on this comic. And then the creators of that comic also made George of the Jungle, which Brendan Fraser was also in, and also starred John Cleese. So I don't know.
Magnificent.
I just have
There's
these
a
little.
connection
I
there.
just made these little connections, and I go, wow.
Are you hanging out for the Brendan Fraser Monty Python crossover?
It's already happened.
No, but like Brendan Fraser actually being in a Monty Python film?
Just can't because Graham Chapman's dead. So what's the point?
Rest in spaghetti, never forgetty. But
Remake.
he's not the only-
Remake.
Do not fuck with me. I had the greatest segue of all time then.
Remake.
And you
Sorry.
Yes, Graham Chapman is dead. And you know who else is dead? Olivia Goldsmith, the novelist.
Jesus Christ. Died in a cosmetic surgery procedure.
Yes. So
She's
born
bleak.
Randy Goldfield and changed her legal name to Justine Rendell and wrote under the pen name Olivia Goldsmith. She wrote The First Wives Club. It was her first publication. She wrote 11 novels, 5 of which were bestsellers and 2 of which were released after her death. As you said, she died of a heart attack as a result of complications following a cosmetic procedure. And I have a fun little quote here from the Living Hell on Earth that is the IMDb trivia section. This is from an unknown source. I have no idea where she said it, but it's a fucking great quote. Olivia Goldsmith said, "I don't write novels about women named Sapphire who have beautiful manes and turquoise eyes. And if they work, it's as an executive at an international cosmetics company. I write about women who worry about their careers, their lovers, their thighs, and in no particular order." Olivia Goldsmith, unknown source. Hang your fucking hat on that one. Do you know anything about this author? Because her Wikipedia is also quite thin.
No, I don't know anything about her. Sorry.
But she did not write the screenplay to this film.
No, she wrote the book.
It's true. You know who did write the screenplay?
Scott, no.
No, it's Robert Harling, you idiot. An openly gay man and practicing Presbyterian, born in Alabama and found his way into the arts after losing interest in a law degree. He got his big break with Steel Magnolias in 1989.
Yeah.
It had previously been an off-Broadway production that he had wrote after the death of his sister in 1985. Other films he has written include Soap Dish from 1991, The Evening Star in 1996, which he also directed, and Laws of Attraction.
Okay, Laws of Attraction, also one of my rom-com. When I'm sick, I watch it. And
You love these guys.
It's one of like the worst movies. It's so bad. But it's Julianne Moore and Pierce Brosnan. And you go, yeah, they can carry it. And Parker Posey's in it and Michael Sheen. And you go, they can carry this shit. And
All
they
the
can't
heavies.
because it's bad script. But anyway, I have seen it twice
Nice.
recently.
What do you reckon about all these fuckers who made this? Like, where's their head at? What's your takeaway from them making this feminist film?
I think it's probably, I mean, if we can sort of take that quote that he might have said or not, who actually knows? But
IMDb is a very trustworthy source.
But I think that Olivia Goldsmith, in writing this book, was probably trying to, contribute something to feminist discourse. I don't really think the director and the script writer had any. I think they were going for comedy more than anything else. And that's another thing. I mean, I think there are some, as I said, there's some cringy stuff and there's some dated stuff and there's some unfortunate, like we've moved on from that kind of thing stuff. But I actually think Diane Keaton's daughter in this movie comes out as a lesbian. It's not.
And I just think she's great.
Well, I do,
that is really nice. I love that bit.
I actually think it's a pretty nice, it's one of, when you consider at the time what was out, to have a kind of character who, I mean, being a lesbian is kind of her only character trait, but it's not something that she's depressed about. It's not like a cause of tension between, well, initially it kind of is briefly, but more as a gag than anything else. It's not a big drama in her life. She's just out there at the lesbian bars, and then one night her mum and her mum's friends show up. I kind of think it's actually a pretty normalizing portrayal, particularly for that era. So I think it might have been one of the first times I heard the word lesbian. Like,
I know, I can't argue with the positivity in that. I think it's fucking awesome. Diane Keaton reminds me so much of my mum. Like my brother came out. It's just the same sort of just like blind positivity. It was like, yeah, this is just like in like a weird hokey earnest kind of way.
But sometimes you do that. I had a similar reaction when a friend of mine came out, and I really for years after it, I was like, God, was it like I wasn't taking them seriously? And then they're like, no, it's just good. Like, you just, were like, yeah, this is normal. That's kind of what I needed in that moment. So I was like, okay, cool. Everyone
needs a Diane Keaton.
I love Diane Keaton.
Fuck oath you do, as do I.
I'm a Diane Keaton fan. It's unfortunate that so much of her work is tainted by some associations, but she's good
films. He just sucks.
But she just, I love her. But I love her comedy style. I love her performances, and I think that she's really more variable than people kind of give her credit for, because she's so famous for like what she's doing in this movie, the really neurotic kind of thing. But she has some other like really impressive dramatic performances. Like she was in The Godfather. She's the best thing she's so good in Godfather Part 3. You know, if you're a Diane Keaton fan, give Godfather Part 3 a crack, because she's so good in it. Her and Al Pacino in that movie, the chemistry is incredible. It's better than anything they have in the first two.
That's good to know.
Not a huge selling point for that movie. Like, there's a lot of things wrong with it, but they are great.
Yeah. We spent a lot of time talking about other movies.
No. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
And it's the same for all of them, actually. Like, I think that's another thing you can't sort of take for granted is in this movie you have three of like the best comedic actresses that you can get. And they're all doing...
And the chemistry is awesome.
Yeah. And also, I was looking... They were 50 when this came out, and they had to varying degrees sort of lulls in their careers. And I think that this movie is kind of credited as revitalizing them a little bit, but I think that might be a bit overblown because their film careers took different paths after this for different reasons. Like Goldie Hawn sort of partially retired, and I think Bette Midler sort of does more stage stuff, and Diane Keaton's there making someone's got to give. And But I think I like seeing really great actresses get to work together in a great actress movie. And you know, fucking the cast is stacked. Like Maggie Smith is in this movie.
Yeah, McGonagall. Yeah, I forgot about that.
And Sarah Jessica Parker, and the younger actresses as well. I like what they're all doing. Fucking, what's her name from Showgirls?
Yeah, she'll come up later. Don't worry about
Elizabeth Perkins.
Elizabeth Berkley?
Oh, yeah, Elizabeth Perkins is somebody else. Yeah, Elizabeth Berkley, sorry. I'm just going to...
We did the Showgirls hands for everyone who... Yeah, you can't see us doing the Showgirls hands, but we did it. Yeah, like you say, cast is fucking stacked. But particularly like the three leading ladies. What have you got to say about them and their unique situations in this film? Yeah, so something that I like as well is that because they've taken divergent paths, they've all kind of taken different journeys and are at different, sort of at this same precipice point in their lives of like their husbands leaving them, but the impacts are all different because of how they've built up to that point. So we've talked a bit about Brenda already, but basically her husband was the breadwinner and she supported him by like providing free labor, working in his stores and things. And now he's left her for a younger woman and is implied to not be supporting her as he maybe should be, as she might be entitled to in taking care of their kid and just keeping a roof over her head. And she seems to not have very much work experience because she's working as like an assistant to an interior designer who seems to have no real clients or something. That whole thing kind of also isn't just obviously in there as the plot demands. We need an interior designer. Yes.
I love Diane Keaton so much. I actually find hers kind of almost the most insidious. Like her partner to me is the most evil.
Yes.
So they're not divorced, they're separated because of his commitment issues after being married for 25 years.
Yeah, he's cartoonishly psychopathic.
Yeah, so they're seeing the same therapist separately, and then he is actually having an affair with the therapist. And then on the night where he asked Diane Keaton to have dinner to tell her that he wants a divorce, he has sex with her first, and then the therapist walks in and I find him, but you say him like evil, like there's something very like just real about that. And it's like, he's not physically abusive. You wouldn't necessarily pick him out as like a domestic abuser, but he's so manipulative. He's so controlling, and she's already having issues with her mother as well. And one of Diane Keaton's biggest things is just her character development is just becoming more assertive and becoming more self-assured and being less of a doormat, as her daughter would say. And not just wanting better for herself, not wanting to go back with this man just because, I think in the end she's like, oh, he wanted to get back together and I told him to get lost. And, I think that that's really good to see on screen because...
The best character arc in the whole film.
Yeah. I don't think hers is the best. I think Goldie Hawn's is pretty good. Anyway, I'll get to Goldie Hawn in 1 second.
No way.
Okay, I'll get to Goldie Hawn in 1 second.
Nowhere near as interesting as
anyway, I just think it's and probably at the time they wouldn't have talked about that in the context of domestic violence or, but that's what it is. It's emotional abuse and it's very controlling. And he sort of continues to try and exert this control after they're not together anymore. So I think that's like just a really worthwhile thing to have on screen, even if it's not discussed in, the most, it's the representation is kind of there and that's a good thing. And then we have Goldie Hawn, who's sort of the only one who's taken up a career because she's an actress. And her partner, her husband, was a producer who then sues her.
Who also built the Titanic.
And he was the sleazy professor in Legally Blonde.
Very range. Hey.
Oh, wait, no, he's not. Is he? Yeah.
He is. He is. And he's a lawyer.
Yeah, and he's a lawyer.
Like Hugh Wilson's discography. Filmography.
He's a Northern Irish boat maker. And he was the Canadian ambassador in Argo. Anyway, yeah, cool.
Yeah. Needs to make more lifeboats, if you ask me. Anyway, carry on.
And I think that Goldie Hawn's, maybe not her character arc is the best. I don't know what you're going to say about that. But I think that the issues that she's kind of facing, talked about in kind of the most detailed way and with the most accuracy, because I think there's a bit of write what you know, right? These people are in the film industry. They know what it's like for women in the film industry. Her problem facing is not only personally is her husband leaving her for a younger woman, she's also at a point in her career where she's not in demand anymore because of her age. And I think she has a great quote. There are only 3 ages for women in Hollywood: babe, district attorney, and driving Miss Daisy. And the age disparity in Hollywood is kind of baffling but so normalized. The expiry date on women's careers that there isn't with men's. When she talks about Sean Connery is 300 years old and he's still a stud. He's still my next boyfriend. Yeah. That is so... When you think about, Gregory Peck with Audrey Hepburn and he's 50 and she's 22. And that's not even a plot point. It's just part of the movie.
Bill Carradine and Uma Thurman.
And
sorry.
No.
David Carradine.
But for real.
Anyway, carry on.
And that's where movies like this come into it. You called it a boomer mum movie. But there's a whole, maybe at the time in the 90s, now with streaming, I don't know, it's probably all fucked up. But there's actually a whole market out there of older women and younger women who want to watch movies about characters that age. But it's the only demographic that is being catered to when you insist on casting under the age of 30 is men. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So I think even just having, because they were all, I think 49 or 50 when this movie came out. Mm-hmm. To have 3 leading women. But I was sort of reflecting on it because it's interesting to me that I think about that. Because I think Sandra Bullock is over 50 and Nicole Kidman is over 50. And in the movie, we see not only is Elise struggling with alcoholism, she's also getting quite a bit of cosmetic surgery. And there are a lot of sort of nasty jokes made about this. As much as I don't think you should make nasty jokes about it, I think that the normalization of plastic surgery is really damaging to society as a whole. And it starts on that level and it bleeds through. There are people I know who had very minor cosmetic procedures, and it's all about trying to look younger, and it's all about trying to look like this generic sort of version of pretty or whatever. And I just think sometimes I'm we should be mean about it because we should be pushing back because we can't all be fucking nice about everything. Choosing to do some things is bad for you. It's bad for your body. It's bad for your self-esteem. It's and it's also bad for society because it makes other people feel bad about themselves. So I don't know. That's my controversial hot take is that
maybe don't get Botox.
Yeah, don't fucking get Botox. Don't do it. Just Yeah.
Yeah, and I totally get where you're coming from. I think probably the most important thing that I've learnt whilst we've been doing these podcasts is that representation is so important. Like, that's the main takeaway. Like, a lot of the films that we've reviewed and analysed have been flawed in so many ways, but like the saving grace and sort of like the key to their longevity is the uniqueness of their representation, and women of all different shapes, sizes, age, demographics, like what have you, sort of held up all these films. And I think, yeah, it's that's what sort of brought me back to like wanting to enjoy this film because of that. Like, yeah, this is, and I know it sounds kind of rude, but like it is actually fucking good that boomer mums have something that's showing them. That's what I'm fucking saying. You know, like, so it's the power of being seen is so much stronger than I anticipated, because that's just something I take for granted because I get representation out the wazoo.
It's also like, I mean, because you just said about audience, like it's still kind of got, I don't know if I would call it a cult following like the Wikipedia does, but it's not cited. It's still got a pretty strong following. I think it's got a lot, people I mention it to have all like seen it, have fond memories of it. Ariana Grande did like a whole reference to the scene where they dance at the end on Ellen not that long ago, a couple of years ago. So I think it's definitely had a cultural impact. Media that sort of any marginalized group can kind of take in that way and wants to hang on to usually has something good going for it.
It's timeless in so many ways, and like obviously that's a credit to the film. But is there anything in particular that you felt has not aged that well?
And I know I sort of I kind of defended the character a bit before, but some of the sort of eating disorder jokes are obviously, it's not a funny subject, and they're quite sort of tacky and cheap. But the only thing that I would say is that, like, well, jokes about eating disorder, there's a couple of, mostly from Brenda towards Shelley, who she's pretty justifiably resentful towards about, you know, like the bulimia diet is paying off or something. Like, obviously jokes like that are very stigmatizing of and belittling of eating disorders, which are very serious conditions, which kill people. But what I would say is that I actually, in my opinion, it's more of what you were talking about before, the fat jokes and that representation of gender, of Brenda needing a weight loss journey is more of a contributor to actual, like, disordered eating behaviors than any sort of joke about being bulimic. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. An incredible stone in the shoe that like he's sleeping with her therapist. That was just very, I was just like, how the fuck is this happening? And I felt that had aged very poorly. Highly unlikely to happen in real life.
Well, highly unlikely that she would get to sort of keep practicing after something like that. Yeah. I agree. The depiction is like, it's pretty limited, but it's also kind of like that standard, like it's like the 90s, it's just therapy is just something bougie middle class people with no real problems do. I feel like it kind of tracks with that general trend.
That really seems to be the attitude, yes.
Just as something that I don't know if it's necessarily cringe, I just don't think that you would do it this way anymore, is the reveal that, so Elisa's ex-husband is now sleeping with Elizabeth Berkley from Showgirls. And it turns out...
Showgirls hands.
I couldn't do it because I'm holding... it turns out that she is 16 years old and underage. And he is genuinely shocked to discover this. Shocked and horrified, and breaks up with her. And when he's hitting on Shelley at the end, he does make sure to check her ID first. And I think that was kind of a bit of an extremely generous cover for what we know of the predatory behavior in the film industry. I think in any more realistic scenario, he absolutely knew and didn't care.
Yeah, and I also get the sense that the titular wives didn't really give a shit about her safety. They just kind of wanted to get him as well, and I sense that, and that kind of feels yuck.
I feel like they could have made it better because I like that at the end that she's at the play. So when Elise does that play.
Yes.
So I really like that. So I feel
incredibly good at sitting in audiences, this performer.
No. Yeah.
I did the hands again.
I liked that she was there, and I thought that, and I guess it's the implication of maybe Elise is going to like mentor her, or like that there's no hard feelings or whatever. And it's like, yes, obviously when you're an adult woman, you shouldn't have hard feelings against a teenager who's been, assaulted by an adult man. I kind of wish that they'd fleshed that out a little and made it a bit more obvious of like, now Elise is going to kind of try and help this girl out. But I take the implication that that's what's happened. The other people don't have to. That's what I do.
I agree with you. It's time for Sexy Lamp. You know what it is. If you can replace a female character in your film with a sexy lamp and it has no effect to the plot, themes, or story, you are a hack. Cara, who is your sexy lamp for the First Wives Club?
It's Timothy Oliphant.
Do go on.
He's the director that Goldie Hawn meets up with at the start, who wants her to play Monique's mother.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. He's just I don't know. Timothy Oliphant's hot. It's always
tell me about that scene. What makes him a sexy lamp?
I don't have anything more than that.
Cool. I actually changed mine while we've been talking.
Okay.
I did have Showgirl sounds. Elizabeth Berkley as the sexy lamp, but I've decided to change it to Diane Keaton's daughter. Upon you just saying, she doesn't really have a character arc. She's just a lesbian. And I'm like, I guess, it's kind of it. She could be replaced with any lesbian lamp, and everything would be the same. But you know what? That's just great.
It's just, you're not doing, this is what I'm saying. She can take a line like, I think that's great, and just make it so funny in a way that we can't because we're not talented.
I'm just a turtleneck kind of gal. I really like Something's Gotta Give. Do you like Something's Gotta Give?
Not really. I like parts of it. I like the parts that Jack Nicholson's not in.
Do you like the parts with Keanu Reeves?
Yeah.
He's so cute.
He's so cute.
He's a sweet boy.
He's a very sweet man. Yeah. He's cute.
Rides the subway.
I mean,
defends dead dogs.
He's like another one. It's just my example of like women's, the warped perception of women in Hollywood, that him and his partner were like photographed on a red carpet, and everyone's like, who's this old woman that Keanu Reeves is dating? And she's like 5 years younger than him, but she says she's got gray hair, and she just looks her age. And it's just, I did find all of Elisa's stuff to be quite, like, it's like the most spot on.
And who are the general public to judge someone for the color of their hair? Because some people don't even have hair. Some people, like Jason Statham. Cara, it's time for Statham swap.
Okay.
Every week, listeners. Every week, dear listeners, Cara and I get to change one character each from the films that we review to be played by the one and only Jason Statham. Cara, who is your Statham swap out for this week's episode?
It's Uncle Carmine.
Okay.
Because my reasoning was I liked the idea of, instead of, every time he appeared, they do like this weird sort of Godfather parody if you just did it like Snatched, like that her uncle was actually just like a London gangster. No? Is that bad?
Yeah, he's been doing dodgy books. Yeah, I guess so. I guess that would work.
Sorry.
But it's very much him playing into his usual type. Would you like to ask me who mine was?
No, because you were mean about mine. But who was yours?
Thank you. Thank you for asking. I thought you'd never ask. Diane Keaton.
Fuck off.
Don't tell me what to do.
Nah, fuck off.
That would be so funny.
I'm not giving Diane Keaton up in this movie for anything. Maybe her therapist.
No,
with love.
It's much funny.
Grow with love.
Yeah, grow with love. We've talked about this every episode. Like if you put Jason Statham in the shoes of like a passive neurotic person playing against type. Like that's funny. It's so funny. Hey, I think you're just great. That was a laugh, ladies and gentlemen. And
yeah, no, but I need Diane Keaton there too much.
Yeah, maybe
he could be Maggie Smith.
I just want to like just clear this up. It's just like a hypothetical.
Yeah,
it doesn't actually change
no,
the
I know.
movie. It's not
and
like,
I'm saying even hypothetically, I don't want it.
Wow, this is very typical of you.
Maybe he could be the Maggie Smith character.
How would you compromise with Diane Keaton's daughter being played by
that would be
Jason
funny
Statham?
too.
Yeah. And Dad, I'm a lesbian. He seems fine with it at the time as well. Like,
he seems a bit shocked.
I don't think she got what she wanted out of that one.
No. He's also a pretty bad guy in real life, the dad from Seventh Heaven.
Yeah, true.
We'll just flag that.
We'll
just flag that he's the dad from Seventh Heaven and he's done some bad shit. We'll just flag that we are aware of that. It's just sort of...
Is he dead?
No, he's not dead.
Is he in jail?
He should be.
Yeah, fuck you dog. Whatever your name is.
Stephen Collins.
Stephen Collins, a.k.a. you fucking dog. Anyway, that bloke's no good. It's time for grading criteria, folks. We grade every single film that we review with these 3 criteria. 1, does it Fight Club? 2, does it Bechdel? And 3, does she make it? Fight Club, to define, if you're listening for the first time. If something Fight Clubs, it means the film has a reverse effect of what the filmmakers intended. Case in point, something like Fight Club, basic-ass movie, a satirical movie, but the issues of mental health made boys become incels and punch each other in the face. Cara, does The First Wives Club Fight Club?
Nah,
I don't think so either.
Yeah. It's kind of like The Craft. Like, it's too much sort of for, like, middle-aged women.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And same as, like, Mad Max. It's very clear what it is. Like, the MRAs of the world are like, oh, I don't like it. I'm not going to see it.
Yeah.
So it's having the desired effect in so many ways, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't see it fight clubbing.
No. Isn't that nice? Does it Bechdel? Let me define the Bechdel test. The film has to have at least 2 named women in it who talk to each other about something besides a man. Now, this is interesting. I have not looked up whether or not this film Bechdels or not, because they do talk about men
They do.
a lot.
I didn't look it up for any official rating. I think it does, though. I think there's a couple of times where they talk about Cynthia and a couple of times when they talk about Elise's career and when they're fighting about, Elise drinking too and all that kind of stuff. And I guess Diane Keaton and her daughter briefly talk about her being a lesbian, but that's even then sandwiched between talking about the dad. So I think it does pass. But again, it's just sort of the thing about the Bechdel test is the test has parameter issues because this is a movie where just because they're talking about men most of the time doesn't detract from that's part of the idea of what makes it feminist anyway. So it doesn't.
There's strong Bechdel and there is weak Bechdel. And I feel like there's enough strong Bechdel in this.
Yeah. I think it's fine whether it officially passes or not. But I think it does, but I don't have an exact example for you.
I'll take your word for it. 4 out of 4 so far. And
can I ask you a question?
Yeah, dog. What you need?
Why, when you do this, is it like 2 points for each question?
It's 1 each. So we.
Oh, right. Oh, if we agree. Oh, shit.
It's taken you fucking 60.
I didn't even realize that.
I also give my opinion.
I didn't even realize that. I fully just thought that we both decided together and gave it a point or not.
No, it's 1 each.
Okay.
That's why it's changed. There's some super fan out there who's probably got an Excel spreadsheet or who's done what. If you are that person, fucking send it.
We know who that is.
I know you don't. Yeah. Celeste.
Yeah. She'd be so happy.
You're not a fucking idiot as well, by the way. I'm sorry I said that with such viciousness.
We love you, our one true fan, Celeste.
Yeah.
And Jack.
All the heavies. Okay, final question. Do they make it? They do.
Yeah, they make it.
They really do
Yeah.
make it. Apart from Bette Midler, who's back with Morty again.
She seems happy.
Yeah, it's just so unbelievable. But, they do make it. And no one tells them what to do, and they sing off down the street
They get
into happiness.
a cool dance ending.
Yeah.
Good cover of that song because they're all good singers.
Is it actually them singing?
Yeah, they're all singers.
So. Okay, big question. I ask you this every week, and I don't put a point system on it because it's your opinion that matters. Is this film helpful or harmful?
I think it's helpful. It's helped me when I had COVID.
Magnificent. Hoo-ha, motherfuckers. That's it for another episode. Cara, have you got anything to say?
Go Dodgers.
Didn't see that coming. You're a closet LA Dodgers baseball fan. You've kept that from us the entire time. I knew so much about you that you never told me that you, A, love Dudley Do-Right, but I didn't know that you're a fan of LA baseball. Fuck, what a weird ending.
Sorry, we can do that again if you want.
Nah, it's fine. It's strange. I'm so tired. Well, there you go, folks. Resounding reviews from us, full marks, and a very, very helpful film. This has been another episode of A Bechdel Dysfunction podcast that dissects feminist films directed by men and discusses whether they're helpful or harmful. Thank you so much for listening, and join us again next time. Farewell.
I'm sorry I said go Dodgers.